Dear students, greetings to you. Welcome to the class to learn about the social history of England, the allied course of the first semester. What is the need for an Indian literature student to know the social history of England? This may be a question that raised in your mind. English is the language of England generally. Knowing about the social, political, historical, cultural, traditional, and economical values of the people of England will help to know more about the literature of England. English literature is the literature of England. It may have its original versions and root storylines taken from Greek, Latin, and other languages. The study of social history of England will help the student to know more about the social setup of England people, their food habits and taste, their cultural values and fashion, in short, the outline and an idea of the people of England. It will be useful for the student of literature to read, understand, interpret and reinterpret the subject and courses they study in the near future. Renaissance. Renaissance is one of the very important primary chapter in the book Social History of England. It takes that importance because it deals about the quest for the knowledge that the people of England has developed in the course of extensive reading, the inventions, the discovery in all the important fields which led England to flourish as an economically powerful country. Renaissance took place all over Europe, especially in England and Italy. Renaissance can also be termed as an age of translation. Renaissance took place in the fields of art, literature, education, religion, and architecture. Renaissance literally means rebirth, revival of learning of classical literature between 14th and 16th century. Renaissance is a period of development of spirit of inquiry, development of freedom of thought and action, development of critical attitude towards the medieval institutions. Renaissance is a period of revolution of social, political, and religious ideas. As already quoted, Renaissance is a period of inventions and discoveries. We are going to see them one by one. The primary one of the invention is the invention of printing press. Printing press was introduced in Europe by John Gutenberg of Germany in 1454. The Latin Bible was printed in 1455 at Mainz. Printing reached Italy in 1465, Switzerland in 1467, France in 1470, Austria and Netherlands in 1473, and Spain in 1474. In 1476, printing reached England through the efforts of William Caxton at Westminster. In 1478, printing press was set up at Oxford and in 1479 at St. Albans. They printed mostly Latin books. Books in English were printed in 1483 only. The next noteworthy inventions and discovery is the invention of mariner's compass. Mariner's compass enabled sailors to undertake longer voyages and maritime explorations. The capture of Constantinople by the Turks made it necessary to find new trade routes for the European nations. The exploration of distant seas became possible with the help of mariner's compass after its invention. The accepted ideas of world's shape and size were found to be false. Columbus discovered the continent of America in 1492. Vasco da Gama reached Calicut on the west coast of India through the Cape of Good Hope in 1498. Magellan set out on his exploration of the Pacific Ocean in 1519 and reached Philippines in 1521, Spain in 1522, completing his first circumnavigation of the world. Unfortunately, he met with death. The invention of the telescope is also a remarkable one. Through telescope, the scanning of the sky was enabled. It paved way for the beginning of the science of astronomy. Through telescope, the true position of the Earth in the solar system was realized. The former teachings were discredited. The impact of Renaissance in Italy could be discussed over here. As already said, the capture of Constantinople by the Turks in 1453 resulted in the exodus of Greek scholars. The Greek scholars came out of their country and wanted to settle in some other countries. So the other countries gave a red carpet welcome to the Greek scholars. Chrysaorus reached Italy and taught the Greek language in the country. The Greek exiles were made as patrons of art and literature in Italy. Greek language, literature, and philosophy became fashion and enthusiasm for the cultured people in Italy. Machiavelli was a noteworthy great Italian Renaissance writer. Let us discuss about the Renaissance that took place in England. Renaissance in England was heralded by Geoffrey Chaucer and Selling. They were in touch with Italian writers. Thomas Lincoln, William Grocyn, and Hugh Latimer, they were called as the Oxford Friends as they studied together. They lectured on Greek at Oxford University. St. Paul's Grammar School was the first school that was set up in England for the study of classical literature. It was founded by John Colet. William Lilly was the first headmaster of the school who prepared the book, The Latin Grammar. The book remained as the standard textbook for 2 centuries. The other schools, Christ Hospital and the Charter House schools, were started later. Renaissance is an age of translation. The works of Virgil, Ovid, Cicero, Demosthenes, and Plutarch were translated into English. The first part of Chapman's Homer appeared in 1598. Translations from Greek and Latin enabled people to share a great fund of classical literature. Let us deal about the Renaissance that took place in literature. Renaissance in literature began with Sir Thomas More with his famous work Utopia in 1551. Erasmus published The Praise of Folly and an edition of the New Testament with Greek text parallel to his new Latin rendering. Spenser was the representative poet of the English Renaissance. William Shakespeare, the genius of Renaissance, produced a good bulk of romantic dramas. Ben Jonson, Francis Bacon, Christopher Marlowe are notable names of Renaissance. Renaissance took place in the field of education too. The educational system of producing a clergy and a perfect gentle knight, those were considered as the professions that day. That educational system became outdated. It was the education system of Middle Ages. Cominium, Rabelais, Montaigne conducted educational experiments. They formed new educational system which helped to prepare students for life in the widest sense. Let us have a look at the Renaissance in art and literature and its impact. Michelangelo's contribution for art, literature, and sculpture was enormous. His famous statues, the statue of David and Moses, and the Pieta. The Pieta is the sculpture of Virgin Mary holding the dead Christ on her lap. These two statues were his greatest contributions. His paintings could be seen at the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. The great fresco of the Last Judgment on the Sistine Chapel's wall was painted. He also wrote many sonnets and love poems. Raphael painted many magnificent pictures, especially of Madonnas. Leonardo da Vinci is famous for the fresco of the Last Supper in the refectory of Maria del Grace in Milan. Renaissance in religion consists of two movements, namely the Reformation and Counter-Reformation. Reformation was started in Germany and was led by Martin Luther. He translated the Old and the New Testaments into German. William Tyndale gave the English rendering for the Erasmus translation. People read and interpreted the Bible. This disintegrating influence This had a great disintegrating influence on the church. As an antidote, Counter-Reformation was started. The Society of Jesus was founded by Ignatius of Loyola in 1540. A split in church resulted because of that. Those who protested against the supremacy of the Pope became Protestants. England followed the architecture of the medieval Gothic style of pointed arch, soaring pinnacles and spires. The Gothic style was replaced by the Roman and Greek styles of architecture, which has columns and round arches and domes. St. Peter's Basilica in Rome is the greatest example of the new style. There was a fire in London in 1666. It was termed as the Great Fire of London as it lasted for 6 days from September 2 to September 6. St. Paul's Cathedral faced great material destruction. The reconstruction of St. Paul's Cathedral introduced architects Inigo Jones and Christopher Wren. Wren also built 52 other churches. Coming to the end of Renaissance. Renaissance has brought a great change in the people's attitude towards themselves and the world. People became the follower of classical literature, new styles, and improved lifestyle. In the words of Professor Jebb, Renaissance is defined as a process of transition in Europe from the medieval to the modern order. To put it in a nutshell, the definition of Professor Jebb is an exact conclusion. Hope this would help you in following the chapter. Thank you.